Welcome everybody to week 3 of Rules of Courts. This is week 3, episode 3. I know the weeks and the episodes don't necessarily line up with what I talk about and what's happening, but I talk about what's happening right now in front of me. Depending on when the episode gets released, that's based on the editors of The Observer, not necessarily me, sorry, about things not being 100% timely. But before I get into anything in this episode, I wanted to formally introduce my co-host and producer and editor, Valeria Mendoza, a very good friend of mine. She's been here for the past 2 episodes, but the last episode she kind of feels a little comfortable chiming in. And hopefully we get a little bit more of that to foster more of a back and forth conversation. Valeria's a very good friend of mine. We've worked together on a lot of things, and I just want to say publicly, I thank you for a lot of things that you do and a lot of things that you help me with. You really make my life easier in the millions and millions of things that I try to get myself into that I probably shouldn't really. I got things to do. But yeah, thank you for all that. I really do appreciate it. And, I like working with you. I like working with you a lot. We do a lot of great work together. But let's get right into this week's episode. So this week, I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about a lot of things. Guys, let me tell you, when I came in today, I had, I came in guns blazing. I came in ready to vent about everything and anything that happened, because today in general, today is February the 9th. It's a beautiful day outside. Absolutely gorgeous day outside. We walked to the pack today from Marigold. Yeah, it's like I want to go golf. But, I was walking over here with like a fire under my rear because there's a lot of things to talk about. First, I kind of wanted to do a Prairie Star update kind of at the top of the episode like we did last week. But this one's going to start a little differently. Depending on when this episode comes out, this is going to be old news. And even by now, February the 9th, a lot of people already know this. This already has come out as news, and I kind of knew this before it happened just by virtue of who I know and where I work. But after 8 years, our former men's soccer coach, Adam Hall, has accepted a position with the Maryville Saints as their new head coach of their men's soccer team. That one kind of shook the grounds a lot for a lot of people, and for me as a fan of UIS soccer and as a good friend of a lot of the athletes that play for men's soccer. Some of his career highlights I have down here. I got him from the UIS Athletics website. But he compiled a 70, 46, and 28 all-time record. UIS did under Hall. The men's soccer coaching staff was recognized as Regional Staff of the Year. He was recognized as the GLVC Head Coach of the Year last year. The men's soccer claimed their first JLVC regular season title under him. For the first time in program history, the men's soccer team advanced to the Sweet 16, the NCAA tournament. Marvin Zott was named the first NCAA All-American in UIS men's soccer history. Scapolo and Adames last year were named D2 CCA All-Americans for the first time in program history. Max Twiddle named to the United States Soccer Coaches All-American second team. Oh my God, there's so many different award academies. It's kind of annoying. Reminds me of boxing. The Prairie Stars have had 8 all-conference honorees to claim 3 major awards. For the first time in program history, they advanced to the tournament championship game. Well, actually, that's not for the first time. But they did advance to the championship game, the JLVC championship game. I was there for that game. That was a great game. Fortunately, we lost in penalties, and that was a heartbreaker. And we were listed first in the NCAA regional rankings. I want to say that was also for the first time in program history. So Hall is leaving with a very storied career. See, now this is where I got to start being political. With a very storied career, but also kind of a bumpy one too. I know a few soccer players that currently have played, or that played in the past against Hall, and I get different opinions on him, his coaching style. But right now, as of him leaving, the overall sentiment is good for him. And I agree. This is a great opportunity for him. He's going to a program that has better facilities, um, from what I can tell, better funding. Maybe even now, because of that, with Hall coming, a deeper pool of candidates to play for him in regards to recruiting. And just talking to some athletes, they're happy for him, but also it kind of put them in a place where they really got to consider these next few years at UIS. And that's kind of the sad thing, and that's kind of where my this is where I grab my soapbox, and I'm gonna stand on it because I got some things to say about that. No, not business. My soapbox. Stop it. I don't. Okay, I'm standing on my soapbox, and I gotta just for 1 second here, kind of say a little bit something about the athletics program. And having gone here for 4 years as a student, but then also 4 years as a fan of the athletics program here. I only came to UIS because they're the school that offered me the most money, and they're close to home. Like I applied to UIS. I didn't even. Literally I found out UIS was a school the day I applied. I applied to UIS. I got accepted a couple days later. I I accepted my offer. I think maybe a week later. It was. I remember I told nobody about it. That I was gonna accept and come to UIS. I think I was literally only texting one other person.
And most of us came over here.
Yeah, like I don't know if you
There was
guys know,
like
but like
nine
yeah,
of us.
there's like 9 of us that came from my high school, which is I think 10% of our entire graduating class. We were like a graduating class of what, 99?
No, we didn't even make it to 100.
Yeah, we didn't even make it to 100. Well, it's not because we didn't have. It was a class of 99 with a 100% graduation rate. There's not a lot of us in the school in general. You make it sound like there's a bunch of
Undergraduating?
us.
Oh my god.
No, yeah. There was 99 of us that graduated out of that high school that year, and a lot of us came here, and I didn't even know that. I was sitting in my room. I remember it was like late at night, and I was texting one other person the entire time, and I was just like, "Yeah, I'm gonna do it right now," and went boom, accept. And then the very next day, I remember we went to work. I went to college prep school, and we used to go to internships every other Friday and one day throughout the week. That's another story, but we went to work. I remember distinctly that we went to work that day because I remember sitting at work, just like really questioning my decision to accept. And I even to then I still haven't told my parents. I still haven't told anybody. It's not that big of a deal. I mean, well, I guess it kind of is. I'm going to college, but
But still,
but
like,
yeah, to me, it's I think everyone kind of knew that I was gonna go with UIS because of the scholarship offer. But yeah, I remember sitting at my desk at work, like, man, did I make the right choice? I've never visited the school. I just found out the school existed not too long ago. I don't really know what program I want to get into. I didn't know if I wanted to do poli sci or legal studies or even business. That was always something that was thrown at me, not necessarily something I wanted to do. I remember a lot of teachers told me to go into business, and I was like, no. But yeah, I am. But a lot of a lot of the time I was at work that day, I kind of really was questioning myself. Like, man, why did I choose this school? And then I was driving home. I remember right when I make the turn to go down my street, I got an email from my dream school that waitlisted me like a month before.
mhm.
And I open it and I got accepted. Dude, I legitimately cried. And I was like, damn. Like right then and there, I felt I made the wrong decision. But then, like I kind of got more reasonable and I looked at the scholarship offers and with the clearer mind, I slept on it. With the clearer mind, I looked at it and considered. At the end of the day, I still probably would have chose UIS. And at the end of the day, today, I'm happy about that decision. You know, there's a lot of differing opinions about the school and things in the direction that it's going, but in terms of my education and the people that I've met and the people that I've gotten to work with, I'm happy with that. There are other things that I have issues with, which I'm going to talk about in a bit, but I'm happy with where I am personally today. I think the school could be doing better. There could be things that the school could be doing better to help promote healthy lifestyles of the students and student athletes. But currently, where I am in the position that I'm in to go into the field of work that I want to get into, I'm content. Now, on the other hand, um, coming in here, I kind of laughed at the fact that we were a D2 school with athletes that took the fact that they were a D2 athlete to the heart, the way that they did. But having become friends with a lot of D2 athletes, or I guess just athletes here in general, I've really grown to have an admiration for them. We have a lot of great athletes. I've seen a lot of great athletes come in and out of the doors here, and no, not just great athletes, great students as well. I've had classes with a few of them, and within the Cap Honors program and the Legal Studies program, split between those two, which is the only places I have reference to. Um, and just from what I hear in different realms and different colleges, these student athletes are rock stars in the classroom as well. So I've grown a very deep admiration for them as not only athletes but as students and as friends and as people. I know that they also get a lot of flack just for the way that they carry themselves. I mean, they're athletes. At the end of the day, your varsity star is always going to act like a varsity star. I mean, if it started in high school, it probably wasn't going to end in college. So yeah, we got some bad apples in the bunch, but I think we have a pretty good bunch. And that leads me to kind of where we are today within our athletics program. And to me, I know this might make a couple of athletes laugh if they're listening at all, but like, I'm willing to be that NARP that sticks their neck out for them and that kind of voices his opinion on what I think is being done wrong with athletics and with the school in general, and how undervalued I think our athletes are here. Um, I, I don't know. I just think that a lot more can be done to really utilize our athletics program in the way that it should be. Now, this could be kind of like a cryptic message because I'm not really directing it at anyone, but to whomever this may concern, I want I want them to understand that building an athletics program can be can really be your number one recruitment tool, and not just for athletics, but I'm talking about for academics. Your recruitment tool for enrollments, for professors, for faculty, for students, for athletes. Building a robust and a successful athletics program will always bring you that. I mean, it can always be utilized in ways that go beyond just GLVC championships because we have those. We've had those in the last 4 years that I've been here. I've seen the women's golf team win. Obviously, the men's soccer team that we just talked about, our baseball team is always killing it. Um, we've always had talent on the volleyball team. The women's basketball team has always kind of been on the up and up, and especially recently in recent years. We have success within our program, but the way that I see our athletes and our athletic program be valued by, I'll just say those with wearing the white wigs, you know, that sit in the dark room
Yeah.
with a big round table and
But what if we get canceled and this is like the third episode?
if we get canceled for me speaking out my opinion on student athletes and something that I really care about, then I'm fine with that because it really is a shame to see how undervalued they are.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I hope whoever takes this message directly and is in a position to, I guess, act, understands what I'm saying in being able to utilize the athletics program. Like obviously, I know, like college athletics is probably the worst business model that you can think of when you're trying to generate revenues. But at the end of the day, athletics, especially at the D2 level, is not about generating revenues. At the D2 level, they are student athletes. At the D1 level, they are athletes that are also students at the same time. I think we all know that. But at the D2 level, I think it needs to be understood that athletics can be utilized as a tool in the same way that D1 utilizes athletics in the recruitment process. Again, not just for athletics, but for everything around the school. It can also it could yeah it could be a revenue it could be a revenue bringer, but that might be through different avenues. We could increase revenue and enrollment because we have such a robust athletics program. I mean, geez, if anyone knows a story of why the last AD left, I think you'll hear me in saying that there is a it's like a strange fear of ambition at the school, just in general, not in athletics. I'm not saying like only athletics, but there's like an eerie and strange adverse nature of those with the white wigs to being innovative or to being ambitious about anything or to make big steps with anything.
They're kind of old school.
They're very old school. They have very antiquated mindsets, and that's something that I think needs to change. I think that whoever, whatever, or wherever that change needs to happen, I hope it happens soon. But just I guess to end this conversation, to put my soapbox away back under the sink, something needs to be done, and I hope gets done fast, and I hope it gets done by the right people, because we can sit here and pout and whine and do whatever we want, but you know, as students of UIS, we've seen that that only gets us so far. On to track and field. um, so this episode is gonna be kind of weird because we're going back to last weekend as well. In our Prairie Star recap. So last Friday, the track and field team were at the Lewis Invitational held in Chicago, Illinois. And again, they put up some pretty impressive numbers on the track. The day was highlighted by Mr. Ryan Jones running all the way from last to first in the men's 800 meters to claim first place. But also on that same day, soccer star Anton Adua Imavan. Sorry if I butcher your name, bro, but Anton's my bro. And Kania Higginbotham both ran respective school records in the men and women's 200-meter races. I know Anton has some wheels. I've seen him on the soccer field. That guy can take off. That guy can move. Um, and Kania, I mean, it sounds like she can do the same thing. So great job, both of you. Madeline Miller also took second in the women's seated 3,000 meter run. Noah Tegler claimed third in the men's seated 3,000 meter run. And Bree Chandler currently holds the GLVC number two time in the women's 800 meter. The day was concluded with the men claiming three top 10 spots in the seated heat of the 3,000 meter run. Um, also that Saturday, so this happened on a Friday. Last Saturday, Prairie Star Cortland Ross claimed third place at the Ryan Shea 3,000 meter run at the Notre Dame's Mayo Invite against a field of 18 D1 school runners. This also allowed Court to grab the number one time within the 3,000 meter for our conference, the GLVC. So yeah, Court really showed up and showed out for our school that day. And this is what I mean. Going back, I know I told you I was putting my soapbox away, but I'm getting back out right now. This is exactly what I mean when I say we have some really great talented athletes and talented stars that can put our name on the map and bring us in some whatever it is we need. Enrollment,
Recognition.
money, recognition, yes. Okay, soapbox went away, sorry. Today, the Stars, February 9th, the Stars are at the Grand Valley State University's Big Meet. Well, they will be competing in the competitions. There's competitions along both days, today and Saturday. Um, Jade tried to explain to me how that worked, and not that I wasn't trying to understand, but I couldn't understand how it worked. So regardless, good luck to them. I know there's a lot of big name schools there this weekend. I'm pretty sure a good number of D1 schools are going to be at the big meet today and tomorrow. So good luck, Stars. Run fast, run smooth. Women's basketball last week also celebrated Women and Girls in Sports Day that Saturday, but I think the date was actually last Wednesday.
Wasn't it yesterday? No, Wednesday.
Yeah, Wednesday. Do you have a favorite woman in sports? Put you on the spot, Miss Woman in Sports.
Oh, Amanda Nunez.
Amanda Nunes.
Yeah.
She's retired.
Yeah. So.
But my favorite woman in sports, I think it's a toss up between Alexa Grasso. I like Alexa a lot. She's a very good fighter.
Yeah.
Champ from Mexico.
She's the only one with the belt right now.
from Mexico. Yeah, I remember we had potentially
We
El
had
Pantera.
Monster.
Yeah, and then we had um, Mr. Assassin Baby, Brandon Moreno.
Okay.
He fights soon. But anyway, so yeah, Alexa Grasso is up there for me. Megan Olivi. I'm surprised you didn't say Megan.
Dude, I love Megan. Oh
Apparently
my
not
god.
enough, bro,
I
because she's not your
forgot
favorite
about
woman in
her.
sports. I didn't forget about Megan Olivi.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I
I
think
might just like her when I grow up.
you grew up
Mm-hmm.
within like the next 7 months. Okay. Yeah, those are probably my top two right now from, I guess, two different aspects of the sport, both behind the scenes and actual performers of the sport. But yeah, Women in Sports Day. Let's go, women. The women's basketball team celebrated by having the women's team sign autographs after their game, after their win against the Rockers Hawks. They beat the Hawks in a 84-74 win at home at the track last Saturday. Um, and it was a good win, good team win. Also, yesterday, February 8th, the Stars went to UMSL, University of Missouri St. Louis, in St. Louis, where they lost to the Tritons, 71-53. Liz Yule ended up leading the Stars in both games, but this lands the Stars right at 12-10 in their overall play and 10-6 within JLBC play. So they're still fighting for a spot in their conference tournament. Right now, it's kind of a close watch with all the teams in their conference. Let's keep pushing. Tomorrow will be Saturday the 10th. The Stars are going to face the McKendree Bearcats um, at at McKendree University. And men's basketball also won against the Rockhurst Hawks last Saturday. Their home win was highlighted by 5 stars scoring within double digits that afternoon, led by Jacob Hanna, who had 19 that game. However, just like the women's, their perfect weekend last week came to an end this week with their loss to UMSL in a 64-62. Um, Honestly, it was a defensive masterclass by both teams, but you know the Stars couldn't come out with the win that game. It was a very close game. However, tomorrow, Saturday the 10th, the men's team will be away as well, playing McKendree after the women's game against the Bearcats. Also happening in UIS sports news, the baseball team and softball team both have double headers on Friday and a few games throughout Saturday and Sunday this weekend of February the 9th, with the baseball team traveling to Greenville, Tennessee, and the softball team playing in Bentonville, Arkansas. That sounds like a lot of fun. Who doesn't want to go to Arkansas? I hope no one from Arkansas is listening.
Getting canceled.
Yeah. I also kind of put on my notes the Teofimo Lopez versus Jermaine Ortiz boxing fight that happened last night, just because I was up watching it, writing my notes,
Mm-hmm.
and I started to think about writing notes for the fight, but just because like boxing is my bread and butter. It's probably the one sport I know the most, just like individually. But that was kind of a lame fight. I mean, so like, did you watch it?
No.
Casual.
No.
You only watch the Canelo fights and
No.
Floyd Mayweather and Jake Paul and
Please. Don't hate.
sorry, but I watched it. I watched it with Chris and Jose. Well, part of it because Jose was out playing volleyball, but I watched it and coming into the fight, I think Teo was like a 7-1 favorite, and they're doing like the whole advertisement around the fight was that he was the showman, and like he changed his nickname from what was he before the Takeover. He was the Takeover initially because he was taking over the lightweight division and whatever. But now he's the showman, and now he wants to be the greatest showman in boxing, and yada yada yada. So you know what he did? To I guess there was a conversation between him and Bob Arum, the top-ranked boxing promoter, saying that there hasn't been like from the 90s and early 2000s those big like showman like walkouts.
Mm-hmm.
He says the last one there was in boxing really was Tyson Fury when he fought Deontay the last time, and he came out sitting on the throne. Remember? Which I didn't even think was that cool. I mean, nothing's ever gonna beat Prince Nassim Hamed, in my opinion, when it comes to walkouts. But even then, like back in the 90s, early 2000s, I have a hard time thinking of like what he's talking about. Like I don't even think it was that big of a deal. Like Mike Tyson used to just walk out in his black shorts. He didn't even have a robe on. Black shorts, black socks, black shoes. Evander Holyfield, same thing. Never came out too flashy. Lennox Lewis never came out anything crazy. I mean,
And they had like some of the biggest fights.
they were some of the biggest fighters in the world. Julio Cesar Chavez never anything crazy. Oscar De La Hoya, even Floyd. Floyd, I can't think of a crazy Floyd walkout besides the one where he was dressed as a Mexican.
Yeah, that's like the craziest one.
Yeah, that's the craziest thing I can think of.
Then
Even then, yeah, and that's Floyd. But I guess Teal wanted to bring back the luster from the late 90s and early 2000s that he saw somehow, somewhere, some way that wasn't just Prince Nassim Hamed. And he came out, his entrance started with like literally that.
bro,
Literally, that's how it started.
funny.
It was like that, and there was a bunch of circus performers like at the entrance of the stage, and they were all doing like their act. There was the dude swallowing the swords. There was like the girls with the batons, like standing on the ball, and like
Like circus type.
yeah, there's like a circus, like introducing Teofimo Lopez
Who
and
was dressed as Ant Man?
Deadpool.
Oh,
And then like there's like this fake announcer guy that who does a really poor like pretending to announce because like he's off. It's like introducing, and like he's like just getting the mic to his mouth, and then he's trying to that wasn't that wasn't very good. And then like so he finally comes out and he's dressed as Deadpool for whatever reason. I mean, but it was weird.
I didn't
No,
know.
no, no, no. He didn't. That was at the walkout. I mean, the walkout, the weigh in.
Oh,
At the walking out to the fight, he was dressed in like I guess like like the showman outfit from a circus, like a very flashy coat, and he had a big top hat, and even his shorts for the fight were like that. And he was walking out with like a funny looking like crawl, kind of not like a crawl. He was like hunched over, like pretending to be like you know mythical and whatever. And it was just a really really weird knockout, but it very much fit the way that Teo fought this fight. Because literally all I have here in my notes is Teofimo Lopez. Yeah, see? Sorry, she just looked up a picture. But literally all I have in my notes is Teofimo Lopez versus Jermaine Ortiz at the Michelob Ultra Arena in Las Vegas. And the next bullet point is boo. Because that was, to an avid boxing fan, that it was not a good showing by what should have been the favorite to challenge either, Devin Haney or fight Lomachenko again in the lightweight division or super lightweight division. Teo put up what I thought was a losing effort. He ended up winning the fight. He ended up beating Jermaine Ortiz, but Jermaine Ortiz, I think, didn't do enough. This goes back to like that, you know, debate about how you should beat a champion. Should you have to beat the champion convincingly to actually beat the champion, or like,
just
um,
like regular standard
yeah, like or like,
cage fight.
mm-hmm, Floyd Mayweather type, just which is the fight that Jermaine Ortiz brought. He brought a game plan where it was stick and move. Well, actually, he's not a very much a stick and move fighter. He's a combination fighter, but he would like Teo would lean on the ropes or get on the ropes and try to tempt Jermaine Ortiz to come in on him and throw combinations so he could counter because Teo's a bit more of a counter puncher. I wouldn't even say he's a counter puncher though. But Jermaine Ortiz kind of flipped the script on that and he put himself on the ropes, had Teo walk to him, and Jermaine Ortiz is a southpaw fighter, and Teofimo Lopez is an orthodox fighter. So if you know anything about boxing, that means that both of your lead foots are going to be pressed against each other. Teo had to get his lead foot on the outside, so to if you're looking straight ahead, he needs to get his foot to the left as Jermaine Ortiz comes to the right, so he can cut him off and have his power hand ready, locked, and loaded. Because if he's coming that way and Jermaine Ortiz goes to Teo's right, and then his right hand's going to be there ready for him. Teo didn't do that once this entire fight. Not only did he not do that, but the times that he was able to get around Ortiz's lead foot, Ortiz was able to shift out of the ropes and escape. So Teo, one, wasn't able to properly utilize, getting the outside foot against a southpaw fighter. But two, he very, 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 oh my gosh, this like really ticks me off how bad he was at cutting off the ring against Jermaine Ortiz.
Really?
Yeah, it was terrible. But also, Jermaine Ortiz threw like 400 something punches and landed like 30 or something like that. He was just throwing at like air. Teal's a very good defensive fighter. He's very elusive. He's very good at like, that bobbing and head moving stuff. His defense isn't really relied on just blocking and putting his hands up, kind of like, a Canelo type. Um, and with Jermaine Ortiz being a combination fighter, he throws 5, 6 punches at a time, and he might land one, and for him that's fine. And to me, honestly, just the fact that Teo had such a bad outing, to me that was fine too. I had Jermaine Ortiz winning by I think 2 rounds by the end of it, because the last round was just dog poop, like it was bad. But yeah, that's my boxing talk of the day. Let's get into some collegiate sports law. This one's gonna be kind of short. What I talk about in this episode, because really it's short because it's big news coming out, very recent news, as of February the 9th, regarding 2 big cases in college sports and the realm of NIL and student athlete employment statuses. The first one coming from Tennessee. If anyone has been following collegiate sports closely, you know that Tennessee is under investigation for NIL violations. They're under investigation by the NCAA, I should say, for NIL violations to their temporary NIL policies that the NCAA has. And the NCAA essentially is looking into the way that, well, there's multiple infractions that the NCAA is charging Tennessee with, the University of Tennessee, the Volunteers, with like surrounding multiple sports. But the main one here is the recruitment of Nico Iamaleava. I'm just gonna call him Nico. He was a 5-star football recruit, coming out of California, and was flown out on a private jet paid for by a booster in the recruitment process, which is a recruitment violation by the NIL, not the NIL, the NCAA. And I think later that same year, I want to say this was 2020, The Athletic released an article talking about an $8 million deal signed between a collective and a junior in high school, speculated to be Nico back in 2022. It was never really clear or released whether that was Nico or not. But that kind of raised a lot of red flags for the NCAA because of the way that the collective and the booster are tied together. Because one thing that we did talk about in the very first episode is the way that NIL works is that the school or the NIL, I guess, the NIL provider, the person that provides the NIL deal to the student, can't pay the student or can't induce the student to come to a particular college. So I can't be like, oh, hey, Valeria, here's $2 million, to be a brand ambassador for Celsius, but you got to sign to UIS. That can't happen, because one, that's literally pay to play. You're paying to play at a university, and also that makes it so that it will increase that practice and run other schools out of competition because they can't afford it. So in obviously what a booster is essentially a a group of typically former student athletes that often will give funding or help with the recruitment process for athletic programs. And a collective is a collective of third party companies that can be tied. I tried to Google it at one point. I have this thing right here. Put simply, NIL collectors are independent organizations that fundraise money for various universities and give it to attending college student athletes in the form of NIL agreement payouts. So, that's where you kind of run into that inducement issue. Whether a collective being partnered with a booster or a booster being partnered with a collective, having that direct tie to the university, is that an inducement by the university or by the booster slash collective to get that student to come to the college? That's what happened with Nico. You know, his his collective deal was with Spire Sports Group, which is also funded by the, what are they called? Anyway, sorry, I just looked like for 5 minutes to try to find the name of the actual booster, but I'm pretty sure it's like the Vols or something like that. But yeah, that's the booster directly connected to the Spire Sports Group, and that's the reason they're getting
Sorry.
that's the reason they're getting investigated by the NCAA. Now, the volunteers are countersuing, um, I guess, with the help of antitrust law, saying that, well, because technically Tennessee, the state, doesn't have an NIL law in place. It's a weird argument. Like they're saying that because they don't have a law in place, they're still technically following the law of their state, not necessarily the policy of the NCAA. And the law of the state claims or abides by the Sherman Act. So in reality, they can really do not whatever they want, but what the NCAA is trying to do is an infraction on their ability to freely trade and act within their ability to perform some kind of transaction in commerce. So Tennessee is suing. Well, I guess not suing. Well, yeah. Initially, they tried to file a what is it called? A Yeah. So Tennessee initially tried to, or at least ask the court. They asked the judge to issue a temporary restraining order on the NCAA's NIL policies within their state, but that was recently denied because there's a few, I guess, boxes you got to tick off in order to get a restraining order or temporary restraining order on a policy. But one of the ones is that you have to show, I believe it's like actual damages or yeah. So two of the three requirements for an injunction or for a temporary restraining order are that there's a likelihood that the plaintiff is going to succeed in the merits. So like if this lawsuit goes through, there's a likelihood that Tennessee would win, or that the plaintiff will suffer irreparable harm if the injunction is not issued. So Tennessee would have had to prove. I think the first one is just that the plaintiff possesses clearly ascertainable right in the need of protection, which I mean that can really be argued on most any grounds. But that third piece I think is where Tennessee has an issue is being able to prove that they have irreparable harm from the NCAA not allowing them to, I guess, utilize NIL as a recruiting tool because of the revenues that Tennessee has already garnered over the years from their football programs. I think what happened there is that the courts kind of saw that and didn't issue the temporary injunction on the NIL policy. So that's where they are with that. We'll see how that develops. But within that, I also was reading about how the SEC and the Big Ten are possibly going to be, or not possibly, they have formed an alliance with each other, which is kind of weird and kind of crazy because, well, I think that means, I think that very clearly outlines the demise for the NCAA if it continues. Because one, you're taking two of the biggest conferences for collegiate sports, and they're coming together to kind of not collude because that's illegal, but but advise each other and advise other schools on what they should do and what they should be doing about things regarding NIL and what's happening with the NCAA and how they're kind of on their knees begging the government to help them with this whole NIL debacle and student employment stuff. They're kind of gone on their own and say, okay, we're gonna start like our own advisory committee. People can come and ask us what we're doing and how we're taking things and how we're I guess moving along this new and developing landscape. And I think there's only a matter of time before they split off on their own. There's already been a court case that ruled that these conferences are allowed to compete for broadcasting deals with the NCAA. So the NCAA, it's not just there's a reason there isn't like NCAA strictly on NBC or ESPN or Fox. Like you have to go to, I think it's ESPN for the SEC. You have to go to Fox for the Big Ten. Like these conferences have $1 billion deals with these broadcasting companies, not because the NCAA helped them, but because they went and competed and they bid on them, or they were bid on themselves by these broadcasting companies. Again, which was a big antitrust case that came down a few years ago, and we saw the likenesses of these big $1 billion broadcasting deals happening. So if these two companies, if these two,
Basically what they are.
I mean, yeah, pretty much, if these two conferences end up grouping together, I think it's only a matter of time before they split off, and then after they split off, they just start poaching these other big schools that aren't affiliated. So like your Notre Dame's, or any schools out west, or any schools in the ACC. Once you start taking the ACC, that's all the basketball programs. Those are all the big basketball schools. Your Dukes, your whoever else is in the ACC. Yeah, Duke, North Carolina. I don't know why I couldn't think of these. Duke, North Carolina, Florida State. But yeah, all your ACC teams can start getting poached, um, and that just really, I think it spells the end for the NCAA if the Big Ten and the SEC continue to kind of move at the pace that they want to, in spite of the NCAA. Which I honestly, I think good for them. I think they should. I think it'll help a lot in truly getting something done about NIL and getting these athletes a share of their pay in the revenues. Because then, at the end of the day, it's going to force the government to kind of, lay down laws and lay down rules for how they can operate. At least hopefully. At least hopefully, I hope that's how things turn out. It could also just blow up in everyone's face, and we just have no more collegiate sports. And that's all stuff that's very much in the horizon. There's also what just happened in Dartmouth. That's another thing I wanted to kind of put on the docket today. The NLRB considers Dartmouth athletes employees of Dartmouth University. And that was a big one. It was like, when I read that, I was like, whoa, what? I was not expecting that. But I guess it kind of does come as a little bit with some expectation, because I remember back in 2017 reading about Northwestern players attempting to unionize, and the NLRB, the National Labor Relations Board, potentially looking to take up that case, and they ended up not, because it was something about the fact that Northwestern was only, like, the case was only regarding Northwestern and not any other of the conference schools that they were part of. So obviously they're in the Big Ten, so it would have included the public schools like Illinois and Wisconsin and both Michigans. Um, but I think the NLRB kind of took a backseat on that one and decided not to take up that case because of how narrow scoped it was to private schools. And so now with the Dartmouth case, I believe, I don't have like the full everything up in front of me. I just have Dartmouth and then like one sentence. But I'm pretty sure the Dartmouth case is now regarding that whole conference, or at least other member schools of that conference that Dartmouth is a part of. But the NCAA, in considering that student athletes are employees, also issued, what is it, like a call for union voting. So Dartmouth athletes are gonna form a union now. They're gonna have to vote on a union president and all this and all that. And now there will be the first official student athlete union in the country. So we'll see how that plays out. I'm sure the NCAA is already beginning to at least file some kind of lawsuit to kind of combat this, or beg the government, get on their knees again and ask, or Charlie Baker's gonna, because he needs to do a lot of pleading from the government to help him out with this one. Because I mean, he's going up against the NLRB, and that's a tough fight for any corporation, especially now that they considered finally that at least these student athletes are employees of their school. This is only going to be one massive, fast flowing snowball. But yeah, that's all I have for this week. That's the end of this episode. Thank goodness. It is a beautiful day outside. I want to go outside and like play tag or something. But yeah, thank you for listening. Hope you enjoyed the beautiful day. Hope there's more beautiful days ahead. And I'll see you guys next week, probably, hopefully.